want to talk about something here today. So, woke up this morning, got my coffee, and I looked at my phone. The first thing that I'm smack dab in the middle of my phone hit with is that the Senate is proposing the highest local aid in state history. Now, when I first saw this, I'll be honest with you, even I was fooled at the, couple seconds that I looked at this until I realized what was actually happening. Now, I'm not here to tell you that this is necessarily a bad thing. More money into towns is a good thing. The problem is it's not enough money. You know what? I'll just show you the post exactly what I saw. I'm going to show you exactly what I saw, and just to give you some context of what I'm talking about. This is what it says. Massachusetts State Senate. Today, the Senate was proud to stand alongside municipal leaders as we announced record funding for cities and towns across our Commonwealth. The funding, known as unrestricted government aid, is the Commonwealth's most flexible form of municipal investment. It allows local leaders to direct resources where their communities need them most. So I'm thinking to myself at this time, I'm reading this, I see this. This is obviously what I saw first, right? But I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, they're actually doing something here until I read the fine print. So again, it says Senate leaders announced highest local aid proposal. I want you to keep that word in mind. I'll talk about that in a couple minutes if I remember. In state history, the $1.376 billion for all 351 cities and towns includes $53 million increase in direct flexible funding. Now, here's the thing. When I first looked at this, as I said, I'm like, okay, they're getting more money. But how much more money is it? Well, it's not 53 million, it's not 153 million, and it's not 3 million, right? This is a proposal. And from what I was reading, I'm not going to pull it up, but from what I was reading, there was a discrepancy between what the House wanted and what the Senate wanted. Now, the House is like Healy's portion of this. The Senate is like Karen Spilka. I believe Healy, and I could have the number wrong, I think they wanted to increase this by, I believe, $10 million. $10 million is a drop in the bucket. $53 million across 351 towns is a drop in the bucket. Now, I'm assuming they're going to end up somewhere in the middle. Maybe it'll be $30 million, maybe it'll be 25, maybe it'll be 35, right? It's still not enough money. Even at $53 million, if you were to do some math here, that's like probably around $150 some thousand dollars per town. It's not enough money. That's like one cop, maybe a cop and a half, right? That's what this is. It is not enough money. And here's the deal. I wouldn't even be talking about this necessarily if this was like 3 or 5 or 6 or 7 towns that were repeat offenders, meaning the same towns every single year. It wasn't increasing and it was always the same towns. I would think to myself, they must have a budget problem. They, need to get somebody in there to clean things up or do the best that they possibly can. But that's not the case. I filmed a video back in October of last year, and I said I was going to pull up the video, but I don't feel like looking it up. But you could check out the video. It's called Massachusetts Towns Are Going Broke. And I said at one point in that video that this was only going to escalate. I said that this was only going to get worse. And guess what happened? It got worse. It got worse. I said by this time, actually in October of this year, that will be up to like 70 towns or that we're going to be looking for 70 overrides. You know what it is today? There are 74 overrides from these towns. That's what's happening. And the number of towns has increased. I don't have a direct number. I was reading it somewhere between 55 or 60 or something like that. I don't have a direct number, but it's still more towns looking for ways to solve a problem. It's more towns looking for ways to solve a problem. But the biggest problem here is the state itself. It's the amount of unrestricted government aid that is coming into these towns. And here's the other portion of the problem. Look at it this way. We have historic lows for the amount of money that is pouring into these towns. So in order to correct this problem, $53 million is not the answer. $10 million is not the answer. I don't know what the answer even is, but it needs to be substantially more than $53 million. And here's why. Look at it this way. Let's reverse engineer the situation here. Think of it like this. If you've had multiple years, I don't need a graph in order to understand this or talk about this. If you have multiple years of lower and lower unrestricted government aid that's pouring into these towns, and you only see very slight incremental increases, that's a drop in the damn bucket. Even if we were to match the highest unrestricted government aid state, or even surpass that state, it would probably take us years upon years upon years to get to have some level of a balance, because we would need an overcorrection to accommodate for the undercorrection that has been happening. And what I mean by that, the undercorrection is the lack of government aid that is actually heading into these towns. So we have what I call here a priorities problem. If, again, we only had a small portion of the states that were repeat offenders that always had a problem, that would be one thing. But I'm willing to bet, and again, I'll make this prediction again. Last year in October, I said it was going to be 70. It's actually 74 overrides as of today, which is May 5th. Okay, that's what it is. I'm willing to bet by October of this year that it's going to increase by what? Maybe another 10 or 15%. That's more than likely what's going to happen. These towns are struggling. All you need to do to understand what is going on here is go to your local Facebook groups and see what they are saying if you are in a town that needs overrides. Nobody should have to deal with this. That's the truth. Nobody should have to deal with this. We pay enough money in taxes that it should be coming back into the towns. That's what should be happening. And here's the truth. I could sit here for the next 10 minutes and I can make arguments on being pro-override or anti-override. There is no logical answer for either, okay? There's the only real logical answer is the state supplying more funds, because what's happening is you have a divide that is happening inside of these towns. Friends, neighbors, family members. You have a divide because you have people that have kids in school, or you have people that, either have family members, friends, or colleagues that work for some of the public services that are seeing cuts or seeing these things, right? Teacher salaries, all these other things. And you are more than likely going to be, pro-override. I understand that. You don't need to be flying out rocket ships to understand that. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have a lot of people that are retired. You have a lot of people that are on a budget. You have a lot of people that can't afford another override. So there's two truths happening here. You could either be pro-override or anti-override. But the fact is, you're not wrong in either end of the spectrum. It just depends on what is going to benefit you most at the time. That's the fact. But the real core problem here is that it is dividing people inside of these towns. That is what is realistically happening here. And they can't solve these problems. The towns are not going to be able to solve these problems. An override is a temporary band-aid on a bigger problem. So yes, maybe your town over the course of the next couple of years will be whole, okay? Maybe you'll be whole. But over a period of time, the chances are of not being whole, given the amount of towns that are looking for overrides, you're effectively screwed. That is what is going to happen. So the state really needs to tighten their belt here. They need to tighten their belt here, and they need to do, this is what I think should happen. I think that the auditor should do, and I don't know if this is in her wheelhouse, it may not be, but I think there needs to be a forensic audit of what is happening, at least in the unrestricted government aid portion. That's more than likely within her wheelhouse. That is more than likely something that could happen. And then maybe what should also happen is a third party or an intermediary should go out, check out the budgets of these towns, have the towns submit their budgets, and see what is actually happening. I feel like this is the most common sense thing to do for a problem that could be easily rectified. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what needs to happen here. I don't care if the state needs to rob Peter to pay Paul in order to help out these towns. I am sick and tired of seeing people complaining, and they have every right to, okay? They have every right to. But there are so many people complaining about these things, and it is only escalating and getting worse. The worst thing that you could do to a state is have your neighbors and your friends and your colleagues fight each other on something so basic in a state that taxes you to death. Literally, that is what's happening here. So honestly, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I do not know why that they are even putting out press releases like this. It's like dangling a carrot on a stick for people. And even then, so that carrot is rotten, right? That carrot is already, that carrot is done for. That's basically it. Because again, $53 million is not enough money. It's not enough money. The towns need more money. Have the state step in and do something. They've been collecting all of this, apparently all this money from the Fair Share Amendment. Put some of that money back into the damn towns. If you're collecting billions upon billions of dollars and celebrating this Fair Share Amendment instead of, plugging the budget gaps that it's not intended for, right? Give it back to the towns, guys. Is it that complicated? At least do a study on it. Show the people within the state that you're actually making a step forward and doing something about it. I'm really sick and tired of seeing it because I feel like this is a core fundamental problem, and the cities and towns inside of your state shouldn't be suffering when we are paying an outrageous and an enormous amount of taxes. That's it. That's it for today's video.